We are proud of our brand new campus in the heart of Breda. An inspiring place for students. All degree programs of Breda University of Applied Sciences are taught at our new campus at the Montjoy Hopmanstraat in Breda. The campus consists of 3 buildings, one of which being a former convent. There are many opportunities to meet and inspire each other on campus, in project spaces, labs and studios, or just outside on a bench. Working together, even with students and lecturers from other programs, is easy because everything is in one place. In this way, you can learn a lot from each other. In the former convent, you will find the library. The hotel domains in-school training company can also be found here, as well as food courts and the service desk. Everywhere on campus you can find a bite to eat, a place to work in silence or to relax. Each study program has its own project spaces, labs, workshops and studios where students and lecturers can work. Playing some football, table tennis, a game of chess. There are several sports and recreational facilities on campus for students and staff. It is possible to produce radio shows, and you can also make music in the music room. We would be happy to welcome you on our campus.
Meet PUM Netherlands Senior Experts.
Geoff Smit is a company, private company in Uganda, and we deal in fresh foods and beverages, but we focus mainly on fruits and more especially pineapples. But we needed more expertise in making jam, mainly in production, marketing and other things.
25 years ago, my parents had a Robusta farm. The advice we want to get from the training course is how to improve the roasting skill for my staffs and how to make a better coffee for the customer.
Second House Product is a family business operating since 1986. Because we really were searching for someone who spent his life on the ground, between the machines, between employees, in implementing and growing and introducing new items.
With an extensive network of voluntary experts, PUM provides exactly the knowledge that suits the entrepreneur's demand. By working together with companies and partner organizations, we promote the sustainable growth of small and medium-sized enterprises in 35 countries worldwide.
Yeah, Caroline, the PUM expert, she was very good to us. She was so caring. She handled our staff very well, and people were very fond of her. And she trained our production staff and marketing staff in the best jam making practices. After her stay here, we have increased production by 40%. She has helped us to produce more efficiently and to have our product on the market in a good shape than before.
Mrs. Paula gave us the advice that we use all the Vietnamese coffee to make a best coffee, because we still think Vietnamese coffee is not good as Laos or another country. After Mrs. Paula teach us how to roasting, how to blending and cupping, so we can make a better coffee now.
And we turned out to find someone from our culinary field who have supported us a lot. Due to his experience, certainly, he knows how to deal with these bottlenecks or tough situations, and now we're moving more cost efficient and more productive within the same time, within the same people.
PUM Netherlands Senior Experts delivers impact by sharing knowledge.
John, a hotel owner. Every day he worked hard for his business. But he is unhappy for many reasons. He was thinking to find a solution. And finally he found Synergy Manajemen Indonesia.
Hi, we are Synergy Manajemen Indonesia. We have been established since 2014, containing professional people and have helped many businesses to grow. And what we do is implementing e-commerce, optimize revenue, cost-efficient, guest satisfaction, development. And now, it's your turn to grow with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Hospitality Recovery Idea 2022 webinar about to begin. We have Honorable Mr. Haryadi Sukamdani, the Chairman of Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Association. In this occasion, represented by Bapak Maulana Yusran, the Secretary General Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant or PHRI. We have also with us Mr. Rusmadi Fetra, the Chairman of Indonesia Hotel General Manager. All our speakers, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon from Indonesia, all speakers. Goedemorgen, all those speakers in Holland. Before we get started, I would like to introduce myself and all the speakers and going to go through some ground rules to ensure our webinar running well. Today is about uncovering Hospitality Recovery Idea 2022, organized by Indonesia Hotel General Manager, supported by PHRI, PUM Netherlands Senior Expert, Breda University Applied Science, the Netherlands, and sponsored by Synergy Indonesia and FusionAdventure.com. First, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sumantri from FusionAdventure.com and Indonesia Hotel General Manager. I will be hosting today Hospitality Recovery's Idea 2022 webinar. We have with us a very honorable Mr. Maulana Yusran, the Secretary General PHRI, on behalf of Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Association, who will officially open our Hospitality Recovery's Idea. Thank you so much for being willing to open Pak webinar, Pak Maulana Yusran yang sudah di sini. Mungkin angkat tangannya Pak Maulana, oh ada, saya nampak. Halo Pak, terima kasih sudah berada di tengah-tengah kita. Thank you very much. We are also glad the following speaker from Breda University Applied Science could be here today to share the insight on Hospitality Recovery's Idea 2022 webinar, and allow me to introduce to you all of them. The first speaker will be Mr. Bert Smit from Breda University. Raise your hand. Hello. And then second speaker will be Mr. Geoff Maree. Hello, Mr. Geoff Maree, raise your hand. All right. And then the third speaker.
Just a quick one. I will be the fourth speaker.
Mr. Frank Veenstra. Raise your hand, Mr. Frank. All right. And then the fourth speaker, Miss Nanda Slangen. Raise your hand. Hello.
Hello.
And then the fifth speaker will be Mr. Eric Andersen and Mr. Joost, the Raad. Where are you? All right. Allemaal goed? Thank you very much. And I also would like to share with you the ground rule. We have an open chat featuring everybody can type, and to access, communicate with other on a chat, you can write your name. All right, and then Pak Adib, you can send. That would be great. And then everybody who haven't received, use the background, please also use the background. Another Pak Adi and Pak Mesa, we can send the background so we can have uniform, so everybody can use the same background. So when we have a group photo later, it will be nice. All right. So the attendance list is for you to obtain the e-certificate later on. Make sure you are not wrong spelling when you write your name and your company. And then we also invite everybody to participate during the Q&A session by click and your raise hand icon on the screen. Adi, tolong di mute yang
ya kan kalau tidak.
Sumantri, please unmute yourself.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, after official opening, we will also have a group photo later on. Make sure now you change the background. Later on, when we have a group photo, it will look nice. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Maulana Yusran on behalf of Indonesia Hotel Restaurant Association to officially open our Hospitality Recoveries Idea 22 webinar. Silakan Pak.
Terima kasih Pak Sumantri. Thank you Pak Sumantri. I will be talking on behalf of Pak Haryadi, Chairman Indonesian Hotel and Restaurant Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore. Good afternoon from everybody outside Indonesia, from Indonesia, for the speakers and also the participant. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan to all attendees to join this webinar. First of all, I would like to thank you, IHGM, for initiating this event with two strategic bodies, PUM Netherlands Senior Experts and Breda University, with full support by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. Today's topic will be about hospitality recovery ideas in 2022, and I'm honored to be here to address the opening speech on behalf of Chairman of Indonesia Hotel and Restaurant Indonesia. We have remarkable speakers in this webinar. They are experts in this field, which we will be covering. Hopefully, we could get important takeaways from each speaker. As we know, tourism is the most heavily impacted sector due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The industry itself suffered for more than 2 years, but now we see some silver lining in tourism industry. Many countries have reopened the border with less hassle regulations, which giving optimism in bringing back tourists to their countries. Similarly, for Indonesia, for about a couple of days, we have received many good news, such as zero quarantine for Bali, Batam, and Bintan. No antigen or PCR test for domestic travelers who already got full vaccination and booster. and visa on arrival also policy for Bali. The industry itself is still facing recovery situation, especially in financial matters such as debt restructuring, funding or loan to restart the business. And the other issues such as renovating hotel properties that have been closed for more than 1.5 years. And in domestic market, the demand increases whenever the government loosens up restriction or policy like we see in major islands of Indonesia, like Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Sulawesi. The rebound of tourism business cannot be separated from government policies, both in travel regulation and financial support. These two factors are essential to reinstate tourism sector to the pre-pandemic level. Hotel and restaurant sector needs new paradigm to appeal to the market and investor as well, especially when related to the sustainability. Some profound discourses arise in many high-talk discussions like green finance.
Pak Maulana, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're muted at the moment, so we cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone mute me, right? Okay. Okay, I repeat that again. The rebound of tourism business cannot be separated from government policies, both in travel regulation and financially policy. Those two factors are essential to reinstate tourism sector to the pre-pandemic level. Hotel and restaurant sector needs new paradigm to appeal to the market and investor as well as especially when related to the sustainability. Some profound discourses arise in many high-talk discussions like green financing in hotel industry or inclusive business to reach sustainability in tourism. I believe we need to start looking at these discourses in more practical ways. The pandemic also reshaped the market as well as the demand and trends. Thus, we need to remap and rework the plan. This year, Indonesia is honored to be appointed G20 presidency with several important meetings which has started in February, leading to the main event of G20 summit in November 2022. This event will be promote Indonesia as a country with diversity and potential opportunity to the world. And this will bring Indonesia to another level. In more entertaining side, we also have Indonesia MotoGP in March this year, which will be held in Mandalika, West Nusa Tenggara. This event will also promote Indonesia as one of the world's sport tourism destination. Besides those two events, Indonesia is also appointed as the host of World Tourism Day in September 2022. With the theme of rethinking tourism. In this webinar, we will rethink about how tourism will look like in post-pandemic era in discussion with notable speaker. So without further ado, let's start the webinar. Let's restart the business and recover together to achieve stronger and more sustainability tourism. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om.
Well, thank you very much, Pak Maulana Yusran. Stay tuned in Zoom. Kami akan ada group photo dulu. Ladies and gentlemen, prior to continue the presentation to the next speaker, Let's have group photo. Yang belum tukar backgroundnya, please change now. We're gonna have a group photo. Pak Adi and Pak Masa, if you can lead. We probably will take 2, 3, 4 time photo because at the moment we have 94 online. Pak Adi, you may start to lead the group photo.
Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to ask several minutes to take the picture of you for the documentation. Please open the video camera of your computer. Thank you.
The count, Pak, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, Pak Adi. So we know. You're mute.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
This for the first page, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And now for the second page.
Yeah, second page now. Make sure you smile.
And now for the third page, it seems like nobody's turning on their cameras.
Continue.
Okay.
All right, Pak Sumantri, I suppose we can continue.
Are we done?
Okay, finish, Pak.
All right, okay. Okay, before we start with the speaker, I just want to say hello first to everyone here. Let me just see the chat column. Some is coming from Bali, some coming from Malang, Semarang, Malaysia. Hello, hello, Malaysia. And then what else? Yogyakarta, and then Bogor, and then what else here we have? Manado, Semarang, West Java, Netherlands, of course. Yeah, we thank you very much for your participation today. We haven't started. We just opened by officially opened by Pak Maulana. Now we proceed to presentation. We invite our first speaker, Mr. Bert Smit from Breda University Applied Science, the Netherlands, with his presentation entitled Hospitality Meets Technology, Threat and Opportunity. Mr. Bert Smit, floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm waiting for my colleague Eric to share our presentation. Can anybody that sees this show me a big thumb or something? Can you see the screen? Yeah, I see.
Yeah, Jawa Tengah.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So, good afternoon, good morning for us. Thank you for having us in your webinar. I've got about 10 minutes to talk about technology in hospitality and what that means. And as usual, I have more slides than time. So I'll take you through it the way I can. Eric, it's not moving. Clicker. Can you do that? Okay. Yeah. Next one, please. Okay. So very short introduction of myself. I've been with BUAS for quite a while, 15 years. I'm principal lecturer in experience design, so my focus is on guest experience in general, and more specifically related to branding, technology, and sustainability. Those are topics I research and in my teaching. And I'll take you through a couple of things that I've been doing the past couple of years. You click for me, Eric, or reconnect the thing. Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are some of the books I've been involved in writing, but I'll skip those for now and move on. So basically the story that I'm hoping to share here today is that I hope that hospitality doesn't get disrupted again. We've been disrupted by technology a few times. We've been disrupted by COVID, of course, and I'm not sure what the impact will be on your side of the planet from the war in Ukraine at the moment, but it doesn't look very good at the moment from where I'm sitting. So I'm hoping that we can also benefit from the technology that is appearing everywhere, and that we can use that to create the optimal guest experiences and also rethink our business model or the way we do business. So that's the major story here. Eric, can we go to the next one, please? So just to give you some ideas of what is going on. A lot of technology is available already. This might be known to some of you. This is a new way of ordering your food, where you use your AR app to really see what your dish might look like before ordering it. So it looks like the way you will get it on your table. So this is one example where technology is really invading hospitality. On the next slide, we'll also see that there's more. Well, can we go to the next one? That we also see technology now entering, for instance, the restaurant sector, where we have 3D or multimedia presentations really entering into the food experience. So it's no longer just having a dinner together, but in this case, this is a video that is projected on the table. You have other versions where you have very immersive restaurant settings where you have the smell and the sound, and you have background imaging and video to really entertain guests while they're having dinner. So these are things that we see happening in many countries already, and where there's really going out for dinner is turned into entertainment next to having excellent food, of course. In this example, you see that the chef is first sketching the food before it's being presented to the guests, because in a bit they will have that lobster on their plate. But first there's this entertaining video to keep everybody there. Can we go to the next one, please? So what we also know, and what's been around already for a while, is using AR for walk-ins, basically. So we use an AR app to really see what's available around you at which price. Booking.com ran this AR app for a while. I think it's gone now already because a lot of people choose different ways of booking. But this way of sort of looking at what is available is appearing a lot at the moment. So I think this will go away because it's not very practical to have your device in front of you all the time in major cities. But it's another example where technology is interacting with the way we book our rooms in this case. And this one I came across in Hong Kong not too long ago. This is Handy, and Handy is basically a phone that you can use as a guest in a hotel because it's connected to a local provider. Gives you all kinds of shopping options, and it tracks what you've been doing on your visit to give you suggestions for other things that you might be doing. It's an interesting concept as well, and it's a nice treat, especially for international guests that don't have access to your local phone providers and want to avoid the cost, for instance. And at the same time, it's a selling tool because of all the offers it makes to the guests. So if you're interested in this, you might want to go here as well, buy your ticket through the phone, and it's added to your hotel bill. So that's what Handy does for you. Then we also see a rising number of robots in hospitality. We see what I call user experience robots. The famous example is, of course, the hotel run by robots in Japan, but we also see these barista bots and food and beverage bots or things like that are meant to not just produce something, but also be fun to look at. For instance, the barista bot that is creating the coffee right now, it could have been more functional, but then it would not have been so entertaining. And the same thing goes for the bot now mixing the Campari soda, also happening a lot. At the same time, of course, it's a gimmick, it's interesting for guests, but it's also taking somebody's job. So that's also something you have to keep in mind, of course, when you start investing in technology like this. Let me go to the next one, please. Then we also have what I call functional bots. So we have cleaning bots, there's food preparing bots like a pizza bot and a salad bot, of course, delivery bots. And all of these help us to improve guest experience by basically extending our operating hours without having to spend a lot of money on staff. The salad bot works 24 hours a day, as long as there's enough, of course, food in it. Same for the pizza bot. There's all kinds of other examples of these kinds of robots that you could have a look at, and this is just a couple that I could find. But it's really changing the way that business is run by really extending opening hours and lowering cost at the same time. Next one, please. What's also happening, of course, is VR hotel training. Hilton has invested a lot of money, and other big chains have invested a lot of money in this as well, where you have a big group of staff that are globally dispersed, for instance. It's easier to train them through VR in standard operating procedures or the way you do a couple of things than traveling around with trainers and everything. So VR training is really happening in the big chains at the moment. But I think it's going to be more accessible very soon, and also giving you opportunities, if you're a smaller business, to train your staff without spending a lot of time on trainers and investing in that. So that's definitely happening also. Next one, please. And then what we see when we look more like back of the house is smart buildings, sensoring data that help us with security, with hospitality, and with housekeeping, because you can tell us, the sensors, where there's people, how long they've been somewhere, how often they've been somewhere, and whether a room is occupied or not. And this way of operating is now changing, at least in Europe, the way that housekeeping and cleaning in general is organized, because your staff can now be instructed or see themselves where they are most urgently needed, whether that is because the toilet has been used 20 times, or whether a meeting has just ended, or a room has just become free. It's a much more flexible way of organizing your cleaning operation, because you have the right data at the right time. And my prediction is that this will change the way we also look at check-in and check-out times, for instance, because it makes it possible to organize housekeeping in a different way, allowing you to really be on the spot with, in terms of timing, meaning that you could have more than one guest per day in a room, if you know when the guest is leaving and when the room is available for housekeeping. Now, what we also see, and this is something that I predict is going to disrupt the restaurant business, is virtual restaurants, where we have franchises now opening online, only online, restaurants opening that present themselves as a restaurant, but they're only delivery. So there's no physical restaurant in the place, but it comes from a kitchen. And very often what you see is that one organization has 8 different types of restaurants, but they're all the food is prepared from one kitchen and then delivered to whoever wants it. We also see that that guests are increasingly using their own favorite delivery apps to get food delivered to them wherever they are, whether that's in your hotel or in a park or somewhere else. And that's something we need to prepare for, I think, especially in combination with my next slide. And this is delivery bots. As soon as you can really take out a lot of the, or automate a lot of the production process and the delivery process, your food cost really goes down very hard. In Europe, this means that preparing fast food, like you see in the video running right now, is about 30% of what it used to be because of the loss of human involvement, actually. So it's a lot of time that we save by investing in this kind of technology. It's really growing hard, but legislation is not ready yet for drone delivery, basically, like you see in the video right now. The US is testing this. In Europe, it's being tested. I'm not sure how it's being tested on your end of the planet, but it's definitely coming, and we should be ready for it. Next one, please. Yeah, I've got a lot of videos. I saw a question in the chat that whether this all will be shared. I'm happy to share the stuff that I'm showing today because it's more videos than I have time for today. All right. So another thing that is coming, and this is something that we also need to be very much aware of in hospitality, is that the way that business travel is being done is changing. We've learned a lot about working from home or working together in a virtual environment. And it's going to change the need for meeting spaces, for conferences, for lots of different things that we are used to run as hotels and will not be needed anymore, but maybe we need something else. So we see hotels investing, for instance, in virtual meeting environments. So organizations that don't have a lot of possibilities to invest in that themselves, they go to other venues where they use that virtual meeting equipment and the spaces to have those virtual meetings. So this is an opportunity, I think, for hospitality business in general that are currently focused on a lot of business travel, but are going to have less guests because we'll travel less in the future. Okay. Next. And that's it. So I hope you seen some technology that you're interested in, or at least are triggered by thinking about. And I pass the word to my colleague, Ms. Slangen, who will take you to the next page.
Mr. Bert Smit, is it called 5.0 era hospitality technology, what you have just now?
Sorry, I missed part of your question. Can you repeat, please?
Now, is it called 5.0 era technology? Because the whole of thing is a technology.
It's all technology, yes. And it's disrupting the way we are used to do business. But it's also providing us a lot of opportunities for the future, of course. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Bert. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you're not, in your presentation, you didn't mention about the metaverse. I think you built this presentation before the metaverse came, isn't it? Just want to double check.
I left it out on purpose.
Okay.
Metaverse will change the way we work. For instance, I don't think that metaverse will have a big impact on us as tourists, for instance, or as leisure people. Other than that, we'll spend time on it, just like we watch TV or use our social media. Metaverse is one of the examples where I was referring to, for instance, when we look at changing the way of having conferences, of meetings. That is definitely something that I see coming. I don't see it as big as Facebook is hoping it will be, but we'll see who's right at the end.
Right, we're gonna move forward to, are you complete your presentation, Mr. Bert Smit?
Yes, I'm unless there's more questions, I'm happy to answer more questions.
All right, hold on there, your question. We will finish the presentation first, then we'll open a question and answer at the end. Yeah. Right, we're gonna move forward to the next speakers, Mr. Geoff Maree. The screen is are you? Is it okay if it is we go to Miss Nanda?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
All right, okay.
I will be the next speaker.
All right,
indeed.
all right. You actually the most beautiful among the speaker because you're the only woman, Miss Nanda.
Yes, that's
Ladies
true.
and gentlemen, without further delay, please welcome Miss Nanda Slangen from Breda University's Applied Science, the Netherlands, with her presentation entitled Trend in Social Media Marketing. Please welcome Miss Nanda Slangen.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and thank you very much for having me on this webinar. I'm really honored to share some of my latest insights on social media marketing for hotels. And I have 10 minutes, I was told, for these 7 topics. So that leaves me with about 1.5 minutes per topic. So I will indeed proceed very quickly. Saying something about the growing importance of social media for hoteliers. So during the pandemic, we saw that we all massively turned to social media to interact with our friends and family and to stay in touch with our friends and family. But basically we start doing a lot more on social media than just interacting with our friends and family. We also started to share our concerns, to post our videos, to learn, to read the news, maybe, to share ideas, to discuss about things, and to even shop our favorite items through social media. So basically, there are a lot of new applications in which we use social media, and there are the opportunities, I think, for the brands in using social media. In fact, what you see is that it became the source for people to search for travel inspiration. And in fact, 80% of the travelers currently use social media when they arrange for their travel plans or during the travel or even after the travel. So social media has a big influence on our travel patterns and our travel inspiration. We also saw that the social e-commerce, so the social shopping, grew over 30% during the pandemic. So people get more and more used to shop via the social media channels and become more trustful in that aspect. We also know now that the average user, the monthly average user, spends more than 2 hours per day on social media. So that means about 15% of the waking time of people they are spending on social media. So again, a lot of opportunities there. And currently almost 59% of the global population is active on social media. And it's likely to grow over the next 3 years. Well, at least that is expected, maybe up until 90% of the global population. So what we see with all this new behavior is that people started interacting differently with brands, and people are really used to now interacting with brands without ever leaving their home. So this creates big opportunities for our hoteliers to interact on social media. So like I said, social media became part of our travel inspiration and searching for travel ideas. And that makes social media part of the travel decision-making journey of our guests, so to say. So the traditional travel decision-making journey was kind of a linear process in which consumers go from awareness of a need through searching information and buying into a product or service. We see that it's a much more fragmented process that consumers go through. And in fact, consumers search for information, search for ideas and inspiration in random moments during the day. And they will do that over a longer period of time up until the moment that they will have certain travel plans and will start buying into a certain itinerary. So all these small random moments that they will have in which they seek information, I would like to refer to these moments as micro moments. And these micro moments are in fact a very important part of the customer journey. And it's in these micro moments that consumers are really intent-driven to buy something or to do something or to get to know something from the social media channels that they turn to. So the brands that will deliver on these moments, on these micro moments, which are so intent-driven, the brands that will deliver on that can reach a bigger audience, can reach new audiences, and can do something with their brand awareness and the brand preferences of people. So these micro moments in which people, I would like to say, snacks, short and small pieces of content, they make up the travel decision-making journey. And it's just these moments that we should capture as brands or as hoteliers. So furthermore, a lot happened actually in the way, in what the channels will do for us. Well, of course, you all know the most favorite channels of social media that we have. And in numbers, we still see that Facebook and maybe Twitter are the largest, the biggest platforms. But we see a big increase in Instagram, and the biggest increase, the fastest growing channel over the past 2 years has been TikTok. So we see that the new generation massively turns to TikTok for their, to watch the short videos, because that's basically what TikTok became popular with. And maybe that aligns with the fact that the younger generation has a shorter attention span. And that's why this video became really popular. And you see that other channels like Instagram, but also YouTube, they started using these small video feeds as well in order to create more engagement with customers. So it's those short videos that are really popular and that can really help you create engagement with your target audiences. And we know from research that our brains process video and visual information much quicker than textual information, which is also another reason why video is a very option for us to share our experiences via the social media channels. Well, furthermore, you see also an increase in usage for LinkedIn. It's a channel as such becoming more popular, and especially for business travel. And so for the hoteliers who are really focusing on business travel, it's an interesting channel, because also there you see an increase in branded information. And so companies who will have a company page on LinkedIn, but then the people who work at the company can still provide feeds that are linked to the company pages to create more awareness for the business facilities in the hotels. And as my colleague Bert was already mentioning, that business travel might change a bit in the future and might even decline a bit because people are more intent to have meetings online. We also see that, or we expect that a new trend will be the leisure traveler, in which the business traveler who does take the trip also adds some leisure moments to that trip. So you see that the younger generation who seeks for the better work-life balance intends to add some of these things to their business trip. And in that way, it's important to see how you can use the different media channels, the social channels, to attract and leisure and business travelers, or both of them, in a sort of a blended way. I try to click, but somehow it doesn't work. So the next slide is about social shopping. Like I already said, a growth of 30% of people who now buys into products via their social channels. So where we used to go to different websites to buy our favorite items, it's now possible to make bookings via the social media channels. And consumers are more and more into trusting these channels to buy into their, or to make the reservations for their hotel. So here you see an example of Moxie Hotel, in which it's possible to book a hotel straight from the feed. So then you are taken through this whole reservation funnel, in which you can choose your room and your rate, and then in the end make the actual reservation without leaving the social media channel. So this brings the actual booking much closer to the moment of inspiration, which is of course a good thing and something to really use for the hotels. And then of course we have our topic of content. There's always a room for discussion. So what should be our content when we have feeds on social media? So what will engage our customer? Well, like I already said, it's a video that is doing a great job at this moment, especially the short videos. And then I talk about 15 seconds to maybe 30-second videos, and offering your content in the snackable pieces, like I said earlier. But other trends that I see in content-wise is the authenticity that consumers want to see on their social channels. So it's not all about polishing up everything to the most beautiful settings. People are like to know what is really going on and what is the authentic situation. So it's also good to show your potential guests how it's really like. Other things that help you increase your engagement and findability on social media channels is adding your location whenever you post things, because then you will end up in groups of posts from other people who are searching for or who are using your location as well. So it might increase the amount of followers or help you find a new target audience. And the same actually goes for using hashtags. Using hashtags helps enormously in your findability, in your visibility, and to show up in the explore feed, for example, on Instagram. And it's per hotel, it's different in what hashtags you would use. So you would need to play with what hashtags would help you create that engagement. So it's something to play a little with. Sound. Audio is another trend that we see on social media. So thanks to, well, we're having podcasts and other apps that people are starting more listening to information without actually seeing things. So also something to look into. Then we have, of course, user-generated content, which is very important. If your guests are content on the social channels and you would get consent from them to be able to share that content, that helps also enormously in growing your followers or your visitors and your target audience. I put here the picture of a photograph because Instagrammable pictures are also very nice to have. So it would be good to have a place in your hotel where people can take pictures to post the content on their social media channels. Challenges. The younger people like to have challenges. So why not give them a challenge that they will have to go through a certain itinerary and make a video of that and post that on some of the channels also to generate more awareness or more engagement. We see that staff is also engaging in social media. So why not have your staff make videos of the backside scenery of your hotel, or what happened outside, or how enthusiastic they are in showing that on social media, because that's really what engages people to look at and to find your brand. Another trend that I see is people are very much interested in what's going on locally. So maybe there are local handicrafts that you could use in your post, or maybe you use the local handicraft tablecloths made in your hotel and you post something about that. That's content that people are really like to engage with. Offer some incentives for people who tag a friend when they post something about you. So you might want to send them a card or give them a free drink at the bar in the evening, just to tag their friends in posts about your property. That is also very helpful. And the last trend on content that is very important at the moment is the trend of using influencers on your social media channels. That brings me to my next slide. Influencer marketing grew enormously over the past years, and we see a move from the macro influencers now more to micro and nano influencers. And with that, I mean influencers who have less followers, but they seem to have a more trustworthy relationship with their followers. So if you use those influencers who are more maybe part of your local communities, that can increase your brand awareness and your brand engagement for that matter. And especially among the youngsters, they are really into following influencers on social media. And those influencers might indeed get your content to get viral over social media channels. So that is always very helpful. And then my last slide, I looked into metaverse, and that's not a trend in that sense, that it already a lot, but indeed it's coming. So maybe in the future we will all as a digital avatar meet each other virtually in hotels, and we can really have a real tour of the hotel before we make the booking. So it might even increase the inspiration that we get from the social media channels. So that's also something to watch maybe for the future. So I don't know if this was within the 10 minutes, but this was the story I wanted to share with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nanda Slangen. It was very wonderful presentation. I'd like to invite the next speakers, Mr. Geoff Maree from Breda University Applied Science in the Netherlands, with his presentation entitled Developing Hybrid Hotel Concept.
Well, that would be myself and Mr. Joost, the Raad. Joost.
Right, okay.
So Mr. Maree will be after our presentation. Sorry to disturb
so now,
your...
Mr. Frank Vestan and...
No, Eric.
Eric, yeah. All right. A dual presentation, Mr. Eric Andersen and Mr. Joost de Raad from Breda University Applied Science in the Netherlands, with the presentation entitled Dutch Initiative in Food and Beverage. Am I right?
That's correct.
Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. That is if. Okay. Selamat sore, everybody. We're going to give you a few insights in what Dutch entrepreneurs in particular have been doing pre-COVID and during COVID, and some ideas may stay, others again was just to survive during COVID. I would like to start with what COVID has done. So pre-COVID, there were quite a few of jobs in food and beverage, in hospitality in general in the Netherlands. And because of the lockdowns that went down, because of which a lot of young people working in hospitality went to look for other jobs, because there was no perspective for them that they would find a job back short term. So what they did, they went to work for healthcare, for example, to help out with the vaccination program. A lot of young students and people working in hospitality did that. And that caused a big problem for the current hospitality business, because there's really a big shortage in jobs. So what they've been doing, among others, is in hotels, is inventing some apps in which people could use hotel space as office space or working space, especially because we were encouraged to work from home. And at home, there were kids running. The wife was also working from home. So there was a lot of disturbance for people working from home. So the hotels made their rooms available to work, and it's also something that a company like this one was doing. I'll give you a short video for that.
YOW stands for My Extraordinary Workspace. Professionals look for a place to work, and hotels have extraordinary facilities, amenities, and a lot of space.
We see a movement that people are looking into inspiring places to work. Working from home might be a solution now and then, but it's not the spark that you need when you're doing your work. Diluk is a design company that believes in making a positive change in the, let's say, spatial environment, where impact is made by environmental or social change.
And we see a massive overlap and a massive potential in using the working facilities of offices and all the luxury, extraordinary facilities that hotels give, like the pool, like the gym, and of course, like the lovely lunch menu.
As a hotel, it's important to have as much.
Okay, so the idea is, of course, that hotels can also benefit from the use of F&B facilities, the pool, as you could see. So they're actually creating business for a business that was actually supposed to be closed. Let me proceed to the next one. Doesn't want to.
Much usage.
Yes. Okay, then coincidentally, Hotel Jakarta in Amsterdam, part of the Westcourt Hotel Group, they made up an event to attract guests to their hotel rooms, but still maintaining the social distancing that was encouraged by the government. So what they did, I'll go to the video and then I'll keep on talking, is they created room spaces, and outside they had a DJ, or DJs in fact, and every room was secluded from the rest. Everybody was wearing a headphone, so silent disco headphones, so everybody could enjoy the DJs that were outside. And of course, this works only in the Netherlands when the weather is good, because now right now it's like -1, and then it wouldn't really work for the DJs, for the people in the room, so it would be okay. But the F&B part of this is that everybody could buy packages for room service. So food, beverages, champagne, everything delivered to the room, and everybody was in the safety of their room to enjoy the party that you see going on right there. Okay, then we have the so-called make-away boxes. Quite a few restaurants created boxes with, well, ranging from, the example you see here is from a Michelin star restaurant in Amsterdam. And the chef there created a box quite quickly as soon as the first lockdown took place. And in this box, there was a package to cook at home at Michelin star level. So every package that you see in the top left corner was coded with a color. So the people at home knew exactly which parts to put together. And through the QR codes you see in the top or the bottom left corner, through the QR codes, people could scan the instructions for every single dish, plus an introduction of the chef himself, and also the playlist that was played in the restaurant itself could be downloaded to Spotify. So also an initiative that was followed by many restaurants, whether or not Michelin star level, from low to high level restaurants. Then we have the dark kitchens that my colleague Bert already showed you. Yeah, the start for this was, of course, because there was a lot of overcapacity, empty spaces, empty kitchens in hotels, event venues, but also hospitals in which kitchens were not used the traditional way anymore. So entrepreneurs could rent those kitchens and run different restaurants. And I also used the Bright Kitchen in Amsterdam, several restaurants from one kitchen. So the only thing you see there are tablets for every restaurant concept order, only through delivery services. So it wasn't possible to physically take a seat in these types of restaurants, and only served within a certain parameter. This example only serves within a 1.5 kilometer parameter around the kitchen. They didn't have a problem with staffing, actually, because delivery people from Uber Eats, from takeaway.com, they were picking up the food and they were posting advertisements looking for a nice job inside instead of being on your bike outside in the cold and the rain. So the people that wanted to change jobs from delivery person to chef in one of these kitchens could just apply and then find a job. So their problem of staffing was not as big as many. Then what my colleague Nanda also already said, linking brands to celebrities in this case, influencers. This is an example of the city of Eindhoven, so Entertainment it is called. And the gentleman that you see there is Rico Verhoeven, world champion kickboxing for 9 or 10 times in a row, I believe. And he linked his name to an Asian entrepreneur from Eindhoven, and they created the concept Mood Street Food. Mood is already a restaurant from Evelyn Wu, that is her name. And Rico is into performance, living healthy, to get this world championship time after time. So they've created dishes and this concept, and he linked his name with a huge picture inside with the food that they believe together is important for the visitors. And then, I don't know if you know this, Rituals. This is a picture from Hong Kong airport. Rituals is a brand that makes, perfumes, soaps, cosmetics, exactly, thank you, cosmetics for consumers, focusing on body and health. And in Amsterdam, they've created a flagship store, 3 or 4 stories high. And the entire concept of the cosmetics has been translated in F&B, in healthcare, and other entertainment. And I will just focus on the food and beverage part. The entrance is actually right next to the flagship store, and the restaurant is following the same principles as Rituals, as cosmetic brand, taking care of your body and mind, your heart, your soul. And the menu they've created is also has been designed according to these rules. See a lot of Asian influences on this menu. So you see that blurring, which started many years ago, is now linked to a lot of branding and also influences. And that was it. These are examples of the, oh no, the one more, sorry. One more. Also, I forgot about this one, so not right between the 10 minutes. This is Lolo's, also in Amsterdam. And Lolo's is making use of its location. It's located right on the edge of the red light district, which has now been completely redesigned actually in Amsterdam. It's not what it used to be, but they've made use of it both in design and also in the promotion of it. So the design that you see is all in one restaurant. You may think, okay, well, what are those green plants doing with the panther print benches, and then again this burlesque-like bar, but that's exactly the idea, because the burlesque-like bar is on the side of where the red light district used to be, and the green plants hanging from the ceiling is from the side where there's a former church, so more a discrete part of the city. But it all runs through, and right in the middle you can enjoy the open kitchen. And I'm going to finish with the promo film that they designed for Lolo's Amsterdam. So they've really made use of the Italian style. So it's original Italian chefs that work there. The language there is also Italian and English and Dutch for some of the guests, of course. but it's really the idea of promoting Lolo's in that part of Amsterdam. Fantastic concept, good quality food. Yeah, real life Italians, like I said, and excellent service. And that works. They hardly had to make any promotion for their concept. And that was it. Thank you very much. And I would like to hand the floor to my colleague, I think.
Thank you very much. Is it including Mr. Geoff's presentation already?
Yes.
All right, okay.
That was Mr. Geoff's presentation.
All right, okay. Well, very much interesting, especially Jakarta Hotel. We
yeah, that's what I thought.
And we really love to just copy paste the technique of your disco, the whole entire, especially in Jakarta, you know? If it is possible. All right, well, now we're gonna invite Mr. Geoff Maree from Breda University's Applied Science in the Netherlands with his presentation entitled Developing Hybrid Hotel Concept. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much, Pastor Monty. And I'm honored to be participating in this webinar. I have a background in industrial design, and that's also the background that I'm going to use in the slides that I'm going to share with you, or the story that I'm going to share. Wait a moment. Something's going wrong with the slides. Ah, there we are. Yeah, there we are. So I'm going to talk about hybrid hospitality, and that has to do with the fact that we are in new circumstances, as we all know. My colleague Bert already.
But Geoff, your voice is too low. Probably need to close it to the mic.
Oh, that's a bit of a surprise. Am I better like this?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so we're talking about hybrid hospitality here, and that has to do with the way of thinking. We need a different way of thinking if we want to be able to answer to new circumstances. Already in the introduction, we have been invited to accept a paradigm shift, and that paradigm shift should also come from inside. If we, let's see if this works, this should be working, yeah. If we think about our business, we think about heads and beds all the time. And this book has been written a few years ago by Mr. Tomsky, and a lot of hotel managers actually reacted quite upset by the stories that he wrote about. It seems to be the type of business that we don't want to be in. And but are we only selling beds, or do we think of our business concept in a broader sense? My colleagues have already introduced a lot of developments and a lot of things that are going on in the world. Examples from Europe and the Netherlands. But it might be interesting to think about how those examples came to be. And for that, we need to look at a way of thinking that has been developing already for years. The word blurring has been mentioned before. We are going to blur concepts, and for that we need hybrid thinking. I was first introduced into hybrid thinking in a conference that took place in Berlin by the Design Hotels chain. And they said, okay, if we want to become the leaders of tomorrow's hospitality, we need to develop hybrid thinking. So with that, they meant that we should look outside of the hospitality industry to be inspired to change the hospitality industry from inside. And I'd like to share a few examples together with you on how that has been happening in the past, and how that has also been happening due to or thanks to the crisis as a pandemic and other circumstances that we are confronted with today. Some 20 years ago, Westin, and you might all know this story, has introduced a heavenly bed, and they did a great job there, not only from a product that was seen as a special product because of the proven improvement of the bed and the quality of the sleep, but also from a marketing perspective. And all the other big chains had to follow into increasing the quality of the beds that they were using for their hotel rooms. But they found out after a while that more and more people were booking a room at Westin, not to sleep, not to because of the fact that they had to be in that hotel. They booked a room because they wanted to test the bed. And it turned out that people that were staying in that hotel were paying maybe 200, 250 euros, or at that moment still guilders in the Netherlands, to stay in a hotel room, but then 2 weeks later spent 5,000 euros on buying the bed. And that was actually something that made Westin think, and also made them realize that a hotel room can be seen as a prototype presenting room. And since then, they have opened the Westin store, Westin at Home, where they not only sell pillows and maybe some fragrances that are related to the brand fragrance, but also the possibility to buy the beds and other goods. And that changed the way that hotels are looking at their business. I can tell you that my colleague Frank will be talking more about the financial side of hotel business. But it is interesting to change your mind into understanding what it actually is that you're selling. The Marriott has learned from that and said, okay, if we are going to be a different type of industry, why don't we ask our guests to participate in changing the industry from inside? So they opened up their first beta hotel in Charlesville in 2017. And they created what they call physical touch points, buttons that you can press that represent new experimental services and products, and that way on a big screen show the appreciation of the guests that participate in that hotel concept. And from that perspective, they can then develop new types of offerings that might bring new types of revenue. Am I still too soft here? Or I'll put the microphone still.
Yeah, we have a feedback. Still too soft and.
Is this better, Passamantri? Because I put my microphone very close.
Yeah, continue.
So the Marriott is learning from the participation of their guests in the way that they're developing new possibilities, new revenue streams, and new services. And that gives them a way of thinking about their industry as a different type of industry. An example that very recently has been set into development is a Dutch example of how the hotel looks at itself as a representative of the local community. And what they do at the Townhouse Design Hotel in Maastricht, they say that they are open to loyalty members of the community. They have a specific loyalty system where they hand out the loyalty card to people that live close to the hotel, and they invite them every Thursday afternoon for a free drink at their lobby, which is also part restaurant. They have a hybrid restaurant concept. By doing so, they take responsibility for their function, not only as a hotel for guests from anywhere else, but also as a local function. And the interesting thing is that it has brought them much extra business, not just business from people from the local area that wanted to use the hotel for different functions, but also from the network that they bring in for people that then want to stay at that hotel. And that's a way of thinking that has also been shown already by, for instance, the Accor chain, where they have been experimenting with the possibility for people that live close to a hotel to use services of the hotel as part of a local community. So they offer, for instance, the possibility to open laundry services or to participate in other services of the hotel, and that way make the hotel not just a place to stay for guests from somewhere else, but also a place to increase the importance of the community at a local place. That also goes for people that think of a staycation, for instance. They might stay at that hotel while even living close by, because in COVID times, that was a very important thing to do. You stay at a place for relaxation, or as we also can see in the next example, to become part of the community. A new hotel concept that has been developed in Amsterdam too has been developed not just to offer semi-long stay to people that are expats or working nomads, as they are being called today, but they also want the room to be a facilitator of getting together. So in this hotel concept, they changed the central spot of the bed into a central spot of the kitchen table, where people could meet, work, and have a nice cozy chat in the evening. Those kind of hybrid concepts steal a little bit from other industries. And we can also see, as also my colleague Eric and Joost have introduced in their previous presentation, that looking at your hotel functions from a different perspective can give you another way of looking at your business. Mojo, like Working Mojo by Accor, has been opened in 2020, also as a reaction to the COVID circumstances. And we also saw something happening in hotels that were creating possibilities to care for people. There are now in the Netherlands and in more places hotels specifically related to hospitals that give people the possibility to recover. We see tourism to resorts that also relates to surgery. We see hotels that are flexible in taking up peak moments in the hospitals to offer beds to hospitals in the neighborhood. So people are thinking in a more hybrid and flexible manner to make the business a more differentiated business than just heads in beds. Having said that, I think that the most important thing is from these examples that it is possible to change a revenue model if you think in a hybrid way. Learn from the automotive industry, learn from other types of industry, and see how you can experiment with this kind of hybrid thinking. Having said that, I would like to end my presentation, to give the floor to my colleague, who is actually next to me. But in order to be able to do so, I would like to ask Pastor Mantri to introduce him, and I can then switch cameras. So we are sharing a camera here.
I managed to fix it.
Oh, that's great. Perfect. So having said that, I'm ready with this one. I'm really curious if you can also create some hybrid hotel concepts, and looking forward to the presentation of my colleague.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Geoff Maree. Our next presentation will be about finance from Mr. Frank Veenstra from Breda University Applied Science in the Netherlands, which is presentation entitled Hotel Finance. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for having me here today. After all the excitement of heavenly beds and robots and other exciting presentations, I'm here to talk to you about finance, good old hard dollars, or as in your case, rupias. My name is Frank Veenstra. I'm a visiting industry professor at BUAS, and I specialize in hotel asset management and hotel finance and development. So very quickly, what are we talking about today? So I want to try and limit this to the subject of today, namely the recovery and ideas around the recovery after the COVID pandemic. And when we talk about finance in this context, I'm not talking about financial control or financial administration. I'm talking about how do we fund our business, and how do we make sure there is money available to start a business, but specifically to keep it going. Two sort of levels of financing. One is the capital requirement for our buildings, for our installations, for our FF&E. And secondly, and very relevant in this context, operational finance. Where do we find the net working capital to pay for our ongoing costs, to pay for our staff, and to keep our hotels open? And generally, there's several sources of financing, typically equity, own money put into businesses by the owners, mortgage-backed debt, there's unsecured debt, operational debt, and relevant to this situation, in a number of countries, there's subsidies, which typically are not a big part of our of finance in our industry, but have become more relevant during this crisis. Generally, so what I'll be doing today, I mean, it's very difficult for all of us, I think, to be very specific to your situation. It's probably even more so for finance. Very much, I've seen in the audience that there's hotel owners, there's hotel tenants, there's hotel operators under management contracts, and everybody's situation will be different. And on top of that, obviously, your situation locally is different than what we're seeing here. So what I'll try and do is generally talk today about what are some of the finance issues that hotels have encountered because of the pandemic. How have they dealt with those issues? And finally, I'll talk about, as is the subject of today's presentation or today's webinar, I'll talk about what are hotels or operators and owners doing here to help them get out of this crisis and to avoid new problems while we hopefully head into recovery after the pandemic. So what are the challenges that some of the hotels generally ran into? I think a lot of industries, a lot of other companies have run into similar problems that our industry has run into, but liquidity is something that in our industry becomes a very quick and very immediate problem the moment that you shut hotels down. I think everybody usually works with plans and scenarios about what could go wrong, how will our financial situation look if, for instance, our occupancy goes down or prices go down or there's political unrest, but nobody really was calculating with the situation that we faced, having governments shut down entire industry or business drying up entirely because people did not travel anymore. And in our business specifically, that immediately leads to liquidity problems. Liquidity problems that are related to debt service, for instance. When we have to pay our banks, usually in our industry, we use this month's revenue to pay last month's bank debt. And as soon as the business stopped coming in, we had issues paying the bank or paying the rent in case of a rented hotel. Similarly, taxes oftentimes have a little bit of a delay, but if this month you have to shut down the hotel or there's hardly any business in the hotel, taxes are still have to be paid. And on top of that, it was very difficult to get new funding because even also the money providers were very reluctant to fund our industry in this environment of uncertainty and no income. So how have hotels dealt with these challenges? Other than in previous crises, hotels in many countries have been relatively successful finding ways to deal with at least some of these financial problems. I think some of my colleagues talked about creative ways of creating revenue and business in spite of the lockdowns, which has worked relatively well for some restaurants. Some have actually benefited from that situation and built a whole new business around home delivery. But for most hotels, and particularly hotels that are 80–90% dependent on room revenue, it's been very difficult to create alternative income streams. It's also been difficult to save, as it always is in our industry, which is heavily dependent on fixed cost. It's very difficult to save on the cost side. So there's very quickly, the options of hoteliers have been reduced to talking to their landlords if they had a lease, talking to their banks if they had, bank debt, and getting rent reductions or postponement of payment from either their banks or their landlords. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, but different from in other crises, those banks and those landlords have been relatively willing to provide help, also because they saw that all of their clients were running into the same problems. The last thing they wanted was to have a whole bunch of hotel keys handed back to them because their clients were going bankrupt. So people have been relatively successful renegotiating with their banks and with their landlords. Similarly, governments, at least here in the West, and I'd like, be interested to hear how things have been going on your end, but in Western Europe, governments have been relatively lenient and helpful in giving people more time to pay their taxes. And those same governments have provided subsidies to specifically our hotel industry to keep their hotels open and to continue paying their staff, because the last thing governments wanted was huge unemployment as a result of this as well. And ultimately, if these didn't work, or if these didn't work enough, hotels have been restructuring, which I guess is a euphemism for letting go people and firing people, which, as we will see in a little bit, and as my colleagues talked about as well, caused another problem, because when the business is coming back, it turns out to be very difficult to get those people back as well. Now, in a number of countries, luckily we're seeing that business is coming back, and it's very fragile, I guess, and there's, it's not a continued growth, and on top of that, we now have a crisis in the Ukraine. That's not helping business in any way. But there does seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the pandemic. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean that hotels are immediately out of the dark. Some of the measures I talked about before, where the banks and landlords and even the authorities or the governments have been willing to give people more time to pay, those debts have not gone away. And many hotels have managed to avoid bankruptcy, but they are coming out of this crisis with higher debt than they had before. And it's not obvious that the cash flows that are coming back now that the business is coming back will be sufficient to pay for those debts on top of the normal operating cost. So that's a challenge that many hotels are facing. On top of that, there's the continued threat of COVID. Things seem to be heading in the right direction, but it could turn around as well and go in another direction. And if there's one thing that we've learned from this pandemic, is there is always a risk in the future that things, that either this virus or another virus comes back and we head into similar situations of travel stops or even mandatory closures of hotels. And as I mentioned before, a major challenge that many hotels are facing at the moment in our part of the world is the unavailability of skilled staff. Many people have moved on to other industries, and are now, it's very difficult to get them back, which is primarily an operational issue, but it's also a finance issue, because the result of that is that hotels simply have to pay more or make it more attractive for people to come and work with them, which comes on top of the other challenges that we talked about. So finally, I want to talk to some ideas going forward, and I think there's lessons that a lot of hoteliers have learned from this pandemic, and where they were faced 2 years ago and during the last couple of years with sort of a panic situation where they ran out of money very quickly and they needed to find solutions for that on the spot and during sort of a panic. They are now trying to preempt that going forward and to sit down with their banks, for instance, or with their landlords to try and renegotiate the contracts that they have. So that leads to some restructuring of balance sheet, trying to have a balance sheet build up in a way that is more resilient to downturns or to problems as we've seen now. But it also means renegotiating operational contracts. For instance, lease contracts are being renegotiated with owners to include clauses that already agree what is going to happen if, for instance, the government shuts down our hotel. Similarly, those documents that are, loan documents with banks are in many situations, people are now including clauses that already agree what happens if a similar situation returns. Tax reduction is another issue that's being, as I said before, the taxes have been postponed, but they haven't gone away. So a lot of companies still have a huge tax debt. And there's discussions going on to either deal with those in a more lenient way than normally, or actually pardon part of those taxes. These are usually not one-on-one discussions between entrepreneurs and the government, but oftentimes these are done by professional organizations or hotel associations that lobby together to get better better conditions for the repayment of those taxes going forward. And then ultimately, and more drastically, people are considering selling their business or selling part of their business, going into partnerships, and thus sharing the risk going forward for just in case similar situations occur again. So these are some of the finance-related ideas that we're seeing in the market today. As I said at the beginning, and as some of the colleagues have mentioned as well, it's very difficult for us here at this stage to give you hands-on, concrete ideas of what you could do going forward. Part of that is because we're not entirely familiar with your situation. Part of it is because, you know, you're a very varied audience, and we only have a few minutes for these presentations. So I think all of us are very interested to hear from you as well. Any questions you may have or any remarks you may have about your situation and about the relevance of some of the ideas that we have mentioned here would be very welcome. So with that, I think we'll open it up for questions.
Well, you end your presentation, Mr. Frank?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Frank. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the presentation for the entire of the webinar. Now we're going to open three first questions. Please raise your hand. Click the raise hand icon so we know who's the first one. We're gonna open three first questions. While waiting for the question, I'd like to have a question to Mr. Eric, probably. Mr. Eric, what is the most significant changing in hospitality industry that impact to the customers and hotelier during the endemic, not pandemic, endemic? Unmute your speaker.
Yeah.
So Eric, yes.
I believe what my colleague Frank just mentioned, that the unavailability of skills is a really big challenge. So entrepreneurs have to look for ways to still offer, and they're still working on that as we speak, to still offer the right level and quality of hospitality, where a lot of people that used to work in hotels, in restaurants, in hospitality business in general, left the business because of the lockdowns. So right now they have to train new people and try to reach the level. But then, yeah, the challenge is that hospitality business is not very popular anymore to work in. And so they have to review their business model and see if, for example, technology, the part that my colleague Bert talked about, can be combined with traditional business models in hospitality. So that is, at the moment, I think their biggest challenge. Does that answer the question?
Anyone? Question session? Please raise your hand. Click on the reaction and then click the raise hand icon so we know who's the first one.
Yeah, Pak Sumantri, I believe Pak Adi is already raising his hand. So,
all right,
Pak Adi, please.
Go ahead, Pak Adi.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Sumantri. I have a question to Ms. Nanda and Mr. Frank. Is it okay, Pak Sumantri? I have two questions.
No problem. Go ahead, Pak Adi.
Yeah, to Ms. Nanda, you mentioning about there are many social media tools or social media channel. Which one is the most highest conversion rate?
You mean the channel?
Yeah.
That will have the direct booking,
yes.
direct bookings available at this moment on social media. I guess it will be Instagram at this moment.
Okay. 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 Straightforward. Thank you.
So on TikTok, you will not see that many hotel reservations yet. And Instagram is mostly used and has maybe even the best options for this.
Okay, thank you. And to Mr. Frank, in the last slide of your presentation, you mentioned some of recovery ideas, which is, I think it's very useful. Can you elaborate how to restructure the balance sheet, and is there any experience that you see or you experience about selling part of hotels facilities? Or I don't know what do you mean with the recovery idea in the selling part of hotel business. Thank you.
Yes, so your first question, I think restructuring, I mean, as I said, I think the audience is very varied. We have people that own hotels, we have people that manage hotels for others. So I think restructuring of the balance sheet is mainly of interest or is most relevant to those operators or to hotel owner operators, right, that actually own their own real estate. And what we've seen is that in some cases here, at least, that owners are renegotiating with their banks to, for instance, have longer payback periods for their loans or have different covenants for their loans. So different agreements about what margins the hotel owner needs to stay within for his loans. So that would be one way to restructure the balance sheet. Another way would indeed be to get new equity in. So to reduce that, generally, you know, in our industry, it's been, since it is such a capital and staff intensive industry, when things go down quickly, that oftentimes becomes a bigger problem than it was under normal circumstances. So another way to restructure would be to get in more equity, so more ownership money and less debt, which would make the hotel less vulnerable to downturns as well. But there are many ways to restructure a balance sheet depending on what the situation is. Now, I think your second question was,
selling of part of business.
Yes, that's something that's more challenging because we sell part of the business. That's a good way to spread risk. It's a good way to get in new money. But obviously, the largest or the biggest challenge is to get in partners that are aligned with you in terms of what they want and what they hope. And that's not always easy. Oftentimes, when you get in, you know, partnerships from others, you also get in their opinions and their thoughts about where to go. So it is something that owners are oftentimes reluctant to do, but there are possibilities to do them. There's actually some funds that specialize in taking minority interests in other companies. So again, I have no idea whether any of those funds exist in your jurisdiction, but that's something that we're seeing here from time to time.
All right, how is it, Pak Adi? So I move to Pak Heru Kurniadi. Pak Heru, please sebutkan nama and then company and dari mana asalnya. Silakan.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Sumantri. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heru Kurniadi. I'm from PPM Hospitality here in Bandung, West Java. I have a question regarding the sales subject or marketing subject. As we know, we're going to face the post-pandemic right now. So I just want to know your research or your current situation on the market behavior, so the customer behavior after the post-pandemic. Is there something that we can do about it to see how technology involve and also, you know, make a huge difference in our situation right now? But the customer behavior that we facing right now post-pandemic, is that anything that we can, you know, anticipate in the near future? That's all of my questions. Thank you very much, Pak Sumantri.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nanda or Pak Eric, probably you can answer the question.
Thanks. Okay, yeah. Yeah, maybe I can try to answer the question. The customer behavior, as we see it over here, is that they really go for easy. So it doesn't have to be too difficult to book a room. It shouldn't be too difficult to get food and beverages. It shouldn't be too difficult to check out. So actually it's a combination of what some of us were telling you during this webinar, a combination of providing the right technology, the right service to make it easy for the consumer. And especially the young generation, they don't want to go through a lot of hassle to make use of hospitality services. They want to enjoy it and spend as little time as possible on the other things they need to do. So yeah, that is reviewing the business model and see how you can facilitate it. Does that answer your question a bit?
Ms. Nanda, you can add on the social media part.
Well, besides the social media part, I think there are also some trends maybe that we can see that there will be probably more domestic travel since people try to stay closer to home, maybe take road trips whenever they go and travel. And also maybe that you see both like more long stay and also more short stay holidays. So people want to go away for short moments more, but also as working becomes very hybrid, people also like to move away maybe for a month to a different place, maybe to Bali, for example, and work from there. And have a hybrid stay over there in a kind of a long stay. So I think these are some of the trends that we might see in the future.
If I can add to that.
Does it answer the question?
Maybe Mr. Joost want to add something. That would be pleased.
Mr. Joost, please do so.
Yeah.
Telephone.
Sorry, I needed to shut down the echo on this side. What we also see is a lot of regional travel right now. We see a lot of people that are sort of frightened by the recent lockdowns, and they want to have a way of getting home again. So Europeans are traveling throughout Europe, but with security of getting home again. And I think you'll see the same in your region, where you will have maybe less intercontinental guests, but more local guests or regional guests. So they are not locked into your country or another country when they need to get home or when they want to get home. In addition to what Ms. Slangen just mentioned, you see that indeed also in combination with work, where people say, well, I'm taking my family or my household somewhere else for a month and we'll combine our holiday with hybrid working. That's also what we see a lot at the moment in Europe.
Thank you, Mr. Joost. Pak Heru, I hope can answer your question. Saya akan membuka lagi dua last question atau pertanyaan. Silakan dalam bahasa Indonesia juga tidak apa-apa. Nanti kita translate, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu yang dari SMK silakan bertanya. Bapak-bapak speaker, Ibu speaker kita dari Europe, dari Netherlands. Jadi sayang kalau kita tidak bertanya. Please dalam bahasa Indonesia boleh diketik atau boleh dalam speaker ini. Nanti kita translate dalam bahasa Inggris. Silakan Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu. Masih 11 minutes to go to 5 o'clock in Indonesia. Yeah, 9 minutes to go. So I will have two last question. If anybody want to ask a question, please. Sekarang waktunya. Atau you can type in the chat column the question may in bahasa Indonesia or bahasa Inggris or Dutch language, doesn't matter. Kalau tidak ada pertanyaan, saya akan mungkin bertanya. I will ask a question to Miss Nanda. Miss Nanda, the TikTok recently announced that they are bidding the Facebook, and then the Facebook lost a lot of money. I'm not sure what is behind. Is it because of the successful marketing there or because of a bad luck? Can you share with us?
Well, I think it's the new generation picking up on TikTok very quickly and leaving the Facebook. So you see actually that Facebook ends up a bit with the followers in the older generation. So maybe Generation X and the boomers. And TikTok really is into the new generation, Generation Z, but also the millennials. And Generation Z is already referred to as Generation T, as in Generation TikTok. So I think it's just a matter of the new generation picking up on the vibes on TikTok, using the short videos, as I said, because they like to snack that kind of content. And I even talked to students who already told me that they got rid of the TikTok app because they couldn't stop watching all the video material that inspires them, and that is, yeah, that they are attracted to.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nanda.
Your question.
Well, okay, thank you very much all the speakers for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Dank u wel, all of you, dank u wel. So I want to thank you to IHGM, PHRI, PUM, Netherlands, Senior Expert, and Breda University Applied Science, the Netherlands, Synergy Indonesia, and Fusion Adventure. And behind the scene, I want to thank you also to Pak Hang. Where's Pak Hang? Raise your hand, Pak Hang. Is that? Oh, Pak Hang, okay. Oh, your camera is still half dark. And then Pak Adi. Thank you, Pak Adi. Raise your hand, Pak Adi. All right. And then Pak Mesa. Raise your hand, Pak Mesa. Those people, Pak Hang, Pak Adi, and Pak Mesa, the one who make it happen here. I'm only talk. The speakers and I only talk here. Somebody behind the scene, I appreciate so much for make it today webinar happen. So if there is no more question, again, I'd like to thank you for attending, and we hope we have learned and enjoyed the presentation today webinar since 3 o'clock. I see you in the next event. Ciao. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.